Hello and welcome to NPC, that stands for Next Portable Console. It's a show about the games we take with us. My name, as always, better be Brendon Bigley. I'm also here with John Voorhees.
Yes, hello. Look at this.
Yes, Nintendo Tokyo. I'm showing off my my latest acquisition T-shirt from my son who was in Tokyo not long ago. But he's home now, and he brought with me a handful of T-shirts. So I got something for the next few weeks on the show. That store is amazing. And has a lot of home goods, which I didn't expect when I went. And I was like, do I want to replace everything I own in my kitchen with Animal Crossing stuff? Tough to not do that.
How close did you come? You probably came pretty close.
I came pretty close. I won't lie. I'm here with Federico Vitici as well.
Hello,
Federico.
Hello, hi. I'm also here. Yes.
Would you get a Brewster oven mitt?
Yeah. Yes. The answer is obviously yes.
It's hard not to. The thing that actually turned me away was the line. The line to check out was so long that I was like, I could go see another thing.
Yeah, it was a very crowded store from what I gather.
Yeah. I forgot about this. I did do an episode of Any Percent, which is our patron show for Into the Aether, where we have 10 minutes or less to answer a prompt from a listener. Somebody found out that I was going to be in Japan, and they were like, you need to record an episode from inside the Nintendo store in Tokyo, and then do another one from inside the Nintendo store in New York.
I remember when you did the New York one. I don't think I've heard the other one. No.
Yeah. It was tough, but we made it happen. Anyway, we're here to talk about handhelds, portable ones, our next ones. But I think we want to start with a listener question that we got.
We do. We got a question from Trevor, and Trevor wanted to know what handheld they should be looking at, because Trevor says that they've been playing Hoyoverse games like Genshin and ZZZ, Zenless Zone Zero.
Zone Zero, yes.
And playing on an M4 iPad Pro. So I think that's the first factor that's worth considering here. And Trevor wants to know, as far as a dedicated handheld, what should they be looking at? Because whether it's Windows or something else, because Trevor wants iPad Pro level performance. Now, and that's a tall order, I'd say, but I think we have some suggestions here.
Personally, I would just stay away from Windows. Like, if those are the games you want to play, Trevor, those games are going to be available on mobile, and which means they're going to be available on Android. And on Android, you have plenty of choice when it comes to gaming devices. Now, I'm not sure what your budget is, but let's say that you had the budget for an M4 iPad Pro. Let's just say that you also have the budget for another flagship Android device. I would say get one of the latest Snapdragon 8 chipsets. So ideally from the Gen 2 and above. And in that case, like, you have a world of possibilities. You can get one of the Odin 2 family of devices. If you want to have something tablet size, like your iPad Pro, that also, beyond the Hoyoverse games, also gives you access to emulators with JIT, which is something that you can do on Android. I gotta recommend my trusted, beloved, what's called the Legion Tab Ultra Gen 3 in the Western market. That's the Lenovo tablet. I have the Chinese version. The Western version is now available for pre-order. I think it's gonna be shipping soon. That's an excellent tablet. Great size, about an iPad mini size, incredible performance with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Or the wild card, like, if you want to go even higher than that, you could get an Android gaming phone. And you could be, obviously, like, it's not a handheld, it's a phone, but you could get one of those fancy, like, Red Magic 10 Pro. Yeah. You have the vapor chamber cooling, and you have a fan, and you have the Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is even better performance than the Gen 3. But I would say, like, depending on budget, I would say the Odin 2 family of devices is going to play those games great. The Legion Tab is going to play those games incredibly well. But I don't know. Do you guys have any other recommendations? I feel like I don't want to recommend Windows for those games.
No, I don't either. I think you're right to stick with Android. And right now, I'm looking at it now. The Lenovo website, the Legion Tab Gen 3, is available to purchase today.
Oh, nice.
It's $500. So it's not a cheap tablet, but it's definitely a high-end tablet and a good quality tablet that Federico has tested. It's got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good pick. I think you could go with something, if you wanted to go cheaper, you could go with something like the new Nothing Phone 3A.
Yes.
Which
True.
is like
under $400, I think, at launch, and is pretty powerful for that price. You know, it kind of feels like nothing is kind of slotted into where OnePlus used to be in terms of the Android phone market, in terms of that like price to performance ratio. I have the Nothing phone. What is it? The CMF1, which I still love and use. But if you're looking for something with like a controller attached to it, you kind of can't go wrong with something like an Odin or a Retroid Pocket 5. Like those two devices, anything in the Odin 2 lineup, Mini, Odin 2, or Odin 2 Portal, like any of those will be great for the HoYoverse stuff. And the Retroid Pocket 5, I think, is a device that some people are buying literally just to play those games on, and loving. So I think you really can't go wrong with any of those options. So it really just depends on, like, do you want a controller attached to it, or do you want to buy a controller to attach to it? Or are you fine with touchscreen entirely, in which case go for it. But I imagine if you're playing on the M4 iPad Pro right now, you're probably using a Bluetooth controller, would be my guess. That's what I did when I was playing Zenless Zone Zero on my iPad. So I think those are all good options. But I think everyone on the panel is right.
Yeah.
Maybe stay away from Windows here.
I'm gonna say something. This is probably gonna sound like a bit of a teachy, crazy experiment, but stay with me. Most likely, I'm just running the numbers off the top of my head, but I bet that for the price of an M4 iPad Pro, you could get the Legion Tab Gen 3, a pair of gaming glasses, and a DualSense controller. And so you could put your Legion Tab on your nightstand, run a USB-C video cable to your glasses, and play with a DualSense controller. That's gonna be like that. That is peak gamer. But I think you can stay like around $1,000. I don't remember the numbers of like how expensive. Like the iPad Pro can get real expensive, fast.
Oh yeah, really fast.
So I mean, if that's the budget, and maybe you're selling your iPad Pro, or just you have the budget for another similar purchase, that is also an option. Like you can get a tablet and a bunch of accessories.
Yeah, and also just to be clear, if at least based on the specific wording of the question, if you are just looking for a Windows handheld, get the ROG Ally X.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
like
definitely the top one.
If that's what you want, like get that, have a great time, open it up, put more storage in it, maybe dedicate some of that to Bazite and have some fun there. But I think that's the one that I would recommend the most. But stay tuned for more interesting information about ASUS and PC handhelds later.
We're going to talk about this.
We're going to
talk about this today, and the ASUS and SteamOS. We're going to have a few things to talk about.
Lots of talk, a lot of topics. But thanks, Trevor, for the question, and thanks also for being an NPC XL subscriber.
For real,
Federico,
thank you so much.
What do people get if they're an NPC XL subscriber?
Well, they get a separate exclusive version of the show called NPC XL, where we do deep dives into specific topics or handhelds or ourselves, like we did in the previous episode with our gaming origin stories. That is available as a $5 per month membership on Patreon. And I just wanted to extend my gratitude to all the folks who are checking out NPC XL. It's been lovely and so humbling to see the support from people. So thank you. And we're gonna try our best to keep it interesting, to keep it fresh, and do something new and fun every week.
I like our topic for this week, mainly because it centers around moi. I'm going away for a very long time, and I'm really trying to figure out what
He's not
devices...
going to prison.
I'm
not going to prison, folks.
Yeah, that really did sound like I was going to prison, huh?
It does.
I'm trying to figure out what to bring with me, like what kind of gaming devices should come with me on this trip, and I can't figure it out. So I have the two best resources sitting here on this Zoom call with me to bounce ideas off of. So we're all going to figure out together what is the ideal long-term travel gaming bundle. We'll
talk about that. Perfect.
Yes.
John, while we are in follow-up, I think you and maybe Brendon, but you both have been monitoring this Retroid Pocket Mini situation.
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, last episode we covered this, and a lot of information has come out since then, and we were operating, I think, under not entirely full information ourselves. And one of the things, I've been hesitant to talk about this a whole lot, only because I don't own a Retroid Pocket Mini, so I don't really have a feel for how real this problem is. I mean, it's obviously real. There are people who are very upset about it. I just don't have any experience with it myself, which makes it a little harder to talk about. But there was, I think if you really want to understand what's been going on in the community since going back all the way to October 2024, you should watch Joey's Retro Handheld's video on YouTube, because Joey goes into the whole tale about what was discovered, what Retroid has done, how the community has reacted, and it's an unfortunate story because I think that there have been things happening both by the company, Retroid, and in the community that are not great. And I think it has caused a lot of consternation and problems for a lot of people. But the reality is now that, as we said last week, the problem is a technical one. It's a hardware one. They can't fix it. As we mentioned last week, Retroid offered to take back 200 of these, which seemed like a very small number. 200 of the overseas sales, which by overseas I now know means outside of China. Okay. That was clarified later. It seems as though since then, Retroid has decided to take back more of these, whether it's like an unlimited return or not. There was an article in The Verge that covered that. There have been more discoveries in terms of trying to figure out what the hardware problem is. It appears that it's possible that what we were looking at was a 1080p display that was partially covered up. And because of the way the pixel density works, I don't want to get into all the details here, but because of the way the pixel density works, it wasn't showing the full number of pixels that was advertised on this device. And as a result, that's what was causing the scaling issue. They were off by around 30 pixels, at least in one of the two directions. And so it's just kind of one of those things that snowballed. There was somebody who worked for Retroid, who was their social media manager, got doxxed on Discord, which is awful, and quit. No longer works with Retroid, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, they were citing immediate death threats as soon as they got doxxed, which is very cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of bad stuff going on here, and I just wanted to raise it again, mainly because we have, when we talked about it, I think we didn't realize the full extent of what was going on and how serious some of the stuff really was. It was a lot worse than we really imagined last week. So I wanted to just kind of point people in the direction if they want to learn more. We'll have some more links in the show notes, and I guess I'll let Brendon talk about it a little bit too, because you wrote a post on Wavelinks about it.
Yeah. I think the main thing that we didn't know last week that I think Joey was able to highlight and I think made very clear is the fact that this is not an issue that is specifically relegated to just certain shaders running on the Pocket Mini, which I think that was kind of where we were at last week. Was like we were talking about the funnel of like people who bought the Retroid Pocket Mini, people who are applying these shaders, and people whose eyesight is so good that they can see that there's a problem here with the shaders enabled.
Right.
The truth of the matter is that the problem is always there technically, but the shaders just highlight it and make it more visible for people. So I do think at the end of the day, like Retroid advertised a product that is not the thing that they sold, and that is obviously a problem. And I think limiting the returns to 200, because at least in their statement to Russ at Retro Game Core, limiting that to 200 was specifically to make sure that the people returning it were only people who were bothered by the screen scaling issue and not anyone else who just might not like their Retroid Pocket Mini for some reason, which feels bad in general. I don't think that's like a great response realistically. I think if you're selling a defective product or not the thing that you advertise to people, you should take them back and make it right in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, the high level thing here is like, don't dox people, don't threaten their lives about anything this dumb. Like this is nothing in the grand scheme of things. I think the thing that he put it, or the way Joey put it, is the way that I feel like we should talk about it. Or maybe it was Aiden Walls, I forget who it was, in a video about this. But like the perspective has gone totally out the window here. Like the perspective of how important this is in the grand scheme of things. It's like you should know that when you're taking a chance on a sub or a about $100 device, that like you're not going to get the best customer service in the world. Like everything we're doing here is like basically experimental in a lot of ways, we are straddling the line of price to performance, and with that you're losing a lot of the modern benefits of things that you would get from companies where you're spending $200 to $300 to $400 to $500 on devices like this. And in the case of the Retroid Pocket Mini, like, hey, if you pre-ordered a new device from a company that honestly, like, even before this, has had a bunch of issues, right? Like the Retroid Pocket Flip had the hinges that were breaking. There have been other issues with other Retroid devices. People were already upset with them about a bunch of different things, like launching the Retroid Pocket 3 and then the 3 Pro immediately and then the 4 right after that. Like, there are so many things that just kind of lead you down to the river of like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be pre-ordering these devices in the first place.
Right.
But I think all of that said, the amount of vitriol I see thrown at Retroid about this feels like fake in some ways. Like, it just feels like dogpiling onto a problem because, like, this is just hobby drama at the end of the day. Like, this is just the thing that the community has decided to be all incensed and up in arms about. And there are a lot of people who I'm sure did not buy the Retroid Pocket Mini who are flipping out about everything that is related to this. Anytime a story like this comes up, it's just like 100 million comments in Reddit threads and in Discord posts and stuff like that about like, they'll never buy Retroid stuff again. Retroid is the worst company that has ever made a retro handheld, etc. And like, none of that stuff is true. And not only that, but like, you know, they made a mistake and they tried to make it right, which is better than a lot of these other companies have even attempted in the past. You know, I think one of the things that I highlighted in that post on Wavelengths is like, the Anbernic RG35XX SP was blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
And their response to that was, here's a gift card to like one guy. It's like wild. So at the end of the day, like, hey, if you bought one of these things and you looked at the screen and you were like, the screen is wrong and I'm upset about that, that's totally valid. Like, you are obviously allowed to feel that way and you are allowed to try and get a return. You are allowed to try and hold Retroid accountable, which is totally cool. But if you are going so far as to spend all of your time on Reddit commenting about how horrible Retroid is, and, you know, for the person who docks the social media manager and the other people who threaten the lives of that social media manager, like, you're taking it way too far. You care way too much about this stuff in a way that is unhealthy, literally. And maybe take a step back, get some perspective on this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, Retroid could have handled this better at various points along the way. On the other hand, the reality is you have to understand, especially in this category, and this isn't really to excuse that they advertised something that they weren't selling, but you have to understand that these companies that are making handhelds at this level are using off-the-shelf parts. This is not Apple or Lenovo or ASUS or any of these big companies that can go out and spend millions of dollars on custom screens and other components. Instead, what they are is they're repurposing, you know, smartphone screens and other things that are out there.
Arguably, even those companies, they sometimes use like the same parts that somebody else makes. So.
Yeah, but you know, along with that comes sometimes some things that don't work exactly like they would if you were buying it from a bigger company, and it's worth keeping that in mind, especially when you're thinking of pre-ordering something. The thing to do is to wait if you're not happy with, you know, if you don't want to take that risk, wait, see what we think about it, see what other reviewers think about it, and then maybe pull the trigger.
Yeah. It will always be cheaper and better for you to wait. All of these devices generally get some kind of revision 6 to 8 months down the line. They're all on sale later. You can find them used from people who have, you know, bought it at launch and then got excited about a new handheld and decided to sell the first one. Like, that's just the way this hobby works. So it's always better to wait. It's always better to wait. Unless you host a podcast like this, it's always better to wait.
And we're going to talk about that later. But thank you for this. I completely agree. We should move on because we have a bunch of things to cover.
Yeah,
and I want to start with SteamOS. So this is a recurring topic on the show. We've been highly anticipating Valve's promised public release of SteamOS for other handhelds, and things are starting to move. So we knew that Valve was sort of targeting an April release date for a public version of SteamOS compatible with other handhelds. Well, last night, Valve released the first preview of SteamOS 3.7 with a whole bunch of Linux performance and compatibility fixes. And in the changelog, you can see beginnings of support for non-Steam Deck handhelds. It's happening, people. It's mid-March. And maybe it won't be April, maybe it'll be late April, maybe it'll be early May, but they're doing the thing. There's going to be a version of SteamOS that at some point soon, before the summer, I bet, we will be able to install, maybe on the ROG Ally X, maybe on a Legion, maybe on the Legion Go. We'll see, but it's real. They're doing it, and I am very excited.
I'm so excited.
About
I'm so excited about this. Yeah, I will as soon as. I think I need one other person to do it first.
Yes.
But I will wipe Bazite off of my Ally X and put SteamOS on there. As soon as one person has done it and been like, it kind of works, then I'm in. I don't even care if it's finicky and bad at launch. I would much prefer to be on SteamOS proper, I think, knowing that they will continue refining it forever and ever and ever.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that makes Bazite great. To be clear, I love Bazite; it's awesome. But things like Decky Loader, those are all things that I could add myself as well to SteamOS proper.
Yeah, yeah. So stay tuned. I think there's gonna be a lot of news happening here in the near future. Back to Retroid we go.
Hello.
Yes.
In better Retroid news, we have details and specs for the Retroid Pocket Classic and more pricing details and more photos for the Flip 2. John, have you looked into the Pocket Classic specs?
I have. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM. It has, 64 gigabytes of storage. As well as active cooling. The screen is 3.92 inches. It's 1240 by 1080 and 500 nits, which is interesting. That's I think that's 50 nits better than the AYANEO that we talked about last week. It's got Wi-Fi 5, Bluetooth 5, and Android 14 and a 5,000 milliamp battery. So pretty good, pretty respectable specs. Oh, it's also it charges at 27 watts, which is faster than a lot of these devices that we've seen. Yeah. So I think overall, this is a really nice looking device in terms of the specs. It's, of course, we talked about before, it's an OLED screen. I am not going to order one, I don't think. I think that I'm perfectly content with my brick for right now because, the Trim UI brick is small, which I really appreciate, and it has a great screen, even though it's not OLED. The thing about this Retroid Pocket Classic is that it's a lot closer to the 4-inch version of the Anbernic device, their vertical handheld. And I had one of those, and it's just a little too big, at least a little too big for what we're going to talk about in NPC XL today, which is travel. If I want to be playing those Game Boy Advance games, that sort of era, having a smaller device to me just makes a lot of sense, as long as it has a good screen, and the brick really delivers on that. So for me, this is not something I'm gonna buy, but I do think it looks like a really nice handheld.
I have one major question about the Pocket Classic that I keep seeing reiterated, and I haven't found a clear answer for yet, which is there's no video output, apparently.
Right.
And that's a thing that seems to be a deal breaker for a lot of people who tend to buy these devices as kind of portable devices, but then when you get home, you could just plug it into a dock and then hey, guess what? You have a TV console now, which is great. Very cool. It has Bluetooth. I'm curious if not having video output is more that it doesn't have a dedicated HDMI out, or does it not actually support video output from the USB-C port also? Is the USB-C port just for charging and not for data? Because that actually, I think, will be a bummer for a bunch of people. I think that is a pretty big mistake in this device.
And that also comes down to this mystery chipset that they haven't announced. They said...
It's weird, isn't it? It's weird that they haven't said what it is.
They said the chipset will be revealed when pre-orders go up, and I'm going to talk about this shortly, on March 17th. So it's kind of a strange combination, lack of video out, this mystery chipset. I don't know, kind of strange, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
They did say it's a 4 nanometer chipset, so there's been some speculation. Well, there's been speculation about what that means and what it could be, and it's pretty limited, family of different chips it could be.
Yeah.
But it's still speculation at this point because you're right, they haven't said specifically.
Yeah, from what I've seen, at least based on the speculative posts online, the chips that it could be are all surprisingly powerful still for what you would want to play on a device like this. Like, I think at the end of the day, this device is still like way powerful and has pretty incredible specs. And we're about to talk about price, but like, I really thought it was gonna be more expensive than it was, and I'm really surprised, I think, at how low they got that price.
Yeah,
agreed.
Considering what's in here.
Yeah. So in terms of pricing, so the Pocket Classic will come in two versions, one with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage. That's going to start at $119. You can get a discount price of $5 off when you pre-order. And the 6 gigabytes of RAM version with 128 gigabytes of storage will start at $129. So that's not too bad. $130. I was expecting more, to be fair.
Is that memory difference or is that buttons? I thought it was 4
Oh,
and 6 buttons.
Sorry, it's the buttons. It's not RAM. It's the buttons. I keep forgetting that they're doing the two weird configurations.
Right. Yeah.
So the four button configuration, which I think most people will likely buy, $119, $120 basically. Nice, right? I mean,
yeah.
Did you see though that most of the colors aren't going to be available for pre-order? It's I think just 2 colors. That are
really?
Going to be available. Yeah, none of the bright colors are going to be available during the pre-order for the Classic.
I mean, given all the news surrounding Retroid, probably best if you want to wait, and just
true. If whatever color you were specifically interested in is not one of the ones that is available at launch, then you're in a good spot because you could just sit back and let reviewers kind of take the heat.
It's the more plain colors that are available. If I remember right, it's kind of the DMG looking one and maybe the Super Nintendo looking one that are for sale initially.
Mm-hmm. No,
I will say about this price, because we had speculated, I think on the last episode, that it's going to be closer to $150. We were thinking under 200 definitely, but around 150 to make it the no-brainer option for people who want the Analog Pocket or something like the AYANEO DMG. But I mean, $120 as like the MSRP for this is pretty wild, especially when you compare it to something like the Trim UI Brick, which is at also about $80. Like generally speaking, it's about $80, and that's like with no SD card or anything. That's a pretty good deal for a device that is significantly more powerful, that has an OLED screen and a bigger OLED screen. Let's say that as well. I mean, if people are interested in a form factor that is bigger than Trim UI Brick, if you were to compare those two devices, I think like the Retroid Pocket Classic would win in almost every single lineup there, except for the fact that it doesn't fit in a pocket as easily, which
right, and it's probably more powerful than you need for most of the games that it'll be good at. Is the other thing, I guess. But
but also it just means like no matter what you throw at it, the things that you would want to play on that device will work definitely, absolutely, and look better on this screen than they would on any other device.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about the handheld that I'm highly anticipating personally, the Flip 2. So the Flip 2 will come in 2 versions, as we know, one with the Snapdragon chipset, the other with one of the Dimensity ones. So the Snapdragon version starts at $229. You can get $10 off for the pre-order. And the Dimensity version starts at $199, and you can get it for $189 during the pre-order discounts. I will get the Flip 2 Snapdragon so quickly. I will stay up because pre-orders will open at 9:30 p.m. on March 17th Eastern Time, which, thanks to the magic of daylight savings, it's not a 6-hour difference for me right now. It's a 5-hour difference for me until the end of the month. So that's my 2:30 a.m., which I think I can pull off. I created a calendar event with multiple alerts to just make sure that I stay up, and I will get my Flip 2, if I can, in purple with the Snapdragon version. I'm doing it.
Love that for you.
And hopefully it's not going to break. Hopefully the hinge.
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully the hinge will be good.
Yeah, did you see? They posted yesterday their reinforced hinge design to make sure it won't break, which I think is interesting.
Nice.
That they're like
it looks like the pin. It looks like the pin is metal, right? I mean, that was what it looked like.
Very nice.
This, as I've said in every episode where we've talked about it, this is like a dream device for me. My biggest concern is that it will not be out or available to ship to my house before I leave for my trip.
Right.
which is a bummer. But, maybe I order it to wherever I end up or something. We'll see. But either way, I'm excited to talk to you guys about it whenever it arrives. I think this thing is going to be sick and could very well replace a lot of the devices I have on my desk right now.
Yeah. They took some very nice pictures of it next to pieces of pie. Did you see the pie?
I love that, yeah.
The pie looked almost better than the Retroid Flip, I think.
Let me ask you guys a question about this. So the Retroid Pocket Flip 2, as we said, comes in these two forms. One of them $230, one of them $200.
Yeah.
The $200 one is basically the chipset of the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, and the $230 one is the Retroid Pocket 5.
Yeah.
Can you see a reason for people to save those $30 and get the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro version? Like, it seems to me like that Dimensity 1100 version is like basically just to clear inventory. Like I'm curious how many of those actually exist at the end of the day.
That's a good point.
But I don't know who I would recommend that to over the Snapdragon version. It doesn't make sense to me really that both of these exist outside of like they just have a bunch of Dimensity chips left over.
Yeah, it makes sense to Retroid, but not to customers, I don't think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree.
Yeah.
So just a few days left, and I'll try and pre-order mine, and I'll let you know how it goes. Now we gotta talk about AYANEO again.
I love this so much.
And we have a couple of news items about AYANEO that are, I want to say perplexing, but let's see. So we have just a single post on X, the Everything app, from the folks at AYANEO, and I'm just gonna read you the text of this teaser, whatever you want to call it. For years, we've dreamed of a retro horizontal handheld with powerful performance, perfect size, and stunning aesthetics. It's 2025. It still hasn't appeared. Okay. So we decided to make it ourselves. AYANEO Pocket Ace, the dream machine for retro gamers. More excitement coming soon.
Mm-hmm. Subtle dunk on every product they've ever made, first of all.
Oh, yeah,
it's really an own goal.
I mean,
it really is.
I mean, you have made a bunch of retro horizontal handhelds with powerful performance, perfect size, and stunning aesthetics. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's pretty much just like, don't buy anything that we've made before.
Yeah.
This new thing will be the thing you want to buy.
And here's my follow-up question. Is this a GBA? Like, all these words, is this a GBA?
Maybe. I mean, that's something, I don't think they've done one that's like a GBA before. And so that's a good guess, I guess. I mean, this post also says top tier performance, perfect size, and stunning design. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I guess like what is this in comparison with the Pocket Micro?
Exactly. Like,
right.
Is it like a bigger, like if it's a bigger Pocket Micro, then you're making a GBA basically.
Yeah.
I don't think
Pocket Micro is pretty big. It's not micro, right? I mean,
No,
John, you have one. It's like a pretty big device already.
Yeah, it's heavy too. That's the thing. It's like maybe they're making something out of plastic. I don't know. I mean, if they're going horizontal, they're competing with their other horizontal things very quickly once they get beyond like a 4-inch screen. I don't know.
Such a horizontal, such as, and this is the second announcement from AYANEO, the upcoming AYANEO Pocket S2. So they're making another one. So the Pocket S, the flagship, high-end, arguably overpriced, Android-based handheld that came out like, 6 months ago, I want to say?
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago. Well, they're making a new one. I saw somebody said that we're gonna show these off at GDC. I'm not sure if that's like a rumor or just like speculation from somebody. But they have a blog post saying, oh no, it's actually in the blog post. It's making its global debut at Qualcomm's booth at GDC 2025. Which, by the way, there's a whole conversation to be had about like people not going to GDC in America anymore because of what's happening with you know. Everything, but regardless, so they're showing this off also on March 17th, next week. For the first time, they're making a new Pocket S. And I just, every time I think I understand what this company is doing, like they zag in a completely different direction. Yeah. I don't know. But hey.
It seems like a weird place to show it off too. I mean, I understand that they're probably using Qualcomm chips, so they're kind of, they're partnering with Qualcomm and they want to show it off, but It's a developer conference. Maybe they're trying to attract Android developers. I don't know.
I gotta be real. Like, I know we like to dunk on AYANEO because they're very funny, but the Pocket S is like, that's also dream device territory for me.
It is a beautiful device.
It is just like about $300 more expensive than I'm willing to spend on it. I think the Pocket S with the I think I have it brought up. Yeah, the Pocket S with a 1080p screen and 16 gigs of RAM is $700.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
That's ridiculous. 1080p?
Yeah.
My God.
They have a 1440p version with 16 gigs of RAM, but it has half of the onboard storage, and that's $650.
Oh, okay. Wow.
You know, I just like, I would for, I don't know, 400 maybe consider it against the Odin lineup, but
you know they're gonna do a Pocket S2. They're gonna put a Snapdragon 8 Elite inside it,
yes,
and they're gonna charge $800 for it.
It's gonna be so expensive.
That would be my prediction. They're gonna put the Elite in it, and they're gonna charge $799. That's I mean,
they're making it for Trevor. Trevor, who had the question at the top.
Trevor,
Trevor, hey, do you have $800 to spend? Are you the only person on Earth with those $800 to spend?
We'll see. We'll keep up with AYANEO. And even so, today, I guess, is the episode of like strange news. Yeah. I want you to drive your attention to this Anbernic potential upcoming handheld news. So, if I recall correctly, you guys went to CES and you came back saying that Anbernic had nothing to show. For the first time.
Right. They said they wouldn't be there.
Okay. So why are we looking at potentially a brand new horizontal Anbernic device running Android with a 5.5-inch screen, 1080p, 16:9 form factor, 60 hertz, 8 gigs of RAM, and one of those like very specific Snapdragon G2 chipsets? Yeah. Like, what is this?
You got me, man.
And why do I get the feeling? I don't know. I have absolutely no details here. Why do I have the feeling that they're making a streaming first device?
It's a really weird story to begin with because there are unnamed sources who said that they tried this thing at CES, right? And maybe there were CES representatives or Anbernic representatives at CES who were not running the booth and had some devices with them to show off, but it doesn't say who saw this thing. And maybe it is a streaming thing, like you said, Federico. Maybe it's like the Logitech device.
Or remember, what's it called? The Razer Edge? Is that what it's called? Yeah. And it also looks like, if you look at the pictures on Reddit, it kind of looks like very similar to one of the GameSir controllers, like just the two halves sort of attached to this. From the photos, like very thick console with tons of airflow and air intake ports. Like very, very confusing. Very confusing. I mean, it's well over 3 months into 2025, and Anbernic has been oddly quiet.
They have been.
So,
especially if we consider how quickly we went from rumored device to announcement to release last year with all of their stuff. Yeah. Like, we already know they're working on the 34XX SP, right? Like, that's the thing that we have seen rumored and is technically in development, but we haven't seen official word from Anbernic yet. Like, where is that thing? What are they doing in general this year? I don't know. I'm really curious about what Anbernic's strategy for 2025 is after their like breakneck pace of 2024. I feel like the only answer really is like take a step back and try and come up with something like really, really interesting. I don't think this device is it personally, but I am curious to see what comes out this year.
I do kind of wonder whether this is a combination of the effect of the Chinese New Year followed very closely with all the tariff stuff. And that's been so up in the air with the United States that, maybe they are reevaluating. Maybe they are going to go higher end where having those tariffs imposed on a more expensive device is a little easier to swallow for customers than packing a lot of cost on top of a $50 to $75
maybe
handheld.
All right. We should talk about Xbox. and we should talk about these rumors that have come out this week regarding a potential Xbox handheld in 2025, which is not something that we were expecting, and also it's not properly an Xbox handheld. Well, sort of. We're going to talk about this. So it all started with this report by Windows Central, one of the most reputable sources when it comes to Windows and Xbox rumors and stuff. So Windows Central published this story saying that Microsoft was gearing up to release this Project Keenan, they called it, for a handheld, an Xbox handheld with the Xbox name on it, but created in collaboration with a third-party manufacturer. And a few days later, Tom Warren at The Verge, also an excellent source when it comes to Windows stuff. Like I subscribed to Tom Warren's The Notepad newsletter before.
Oh, yeah, it's a great newsletter.
Before it became part of a Verge membership, so I still read The Notepad. And Tom Warren clarified that it's actually called Project Canon, and it's basically an Xbox handheld that Microsoft is making in partnership with ASUS, and it's going to be an experiment that they want to release at some point this year, later this year, with potentially an announcement in the summer. And apparently, this is going to run Windows. It's not clear if it's going to be a modified version of Windows with some Xbox-style UI on top of it. It is going to be Windows. It is going to support Steam and the Epic Games Store and obviously the Microsoft Store. You will be able to do cloud gaming. You will be able to have Game Pass, obviously, on it. But it's not the portable Xbox made by Microsoft itself. It's going to be made by ASUS. Now, even more interesting is that, according to Windows Central, they're going to target a $500 to $600 price point. And I was just... I was checking out these comments by YouTuber who goes by The Fox on Twitter, excellent, on YouTube, excellent, very technical channel when it comes to like performance benchmarks and that sort of stuff. And so if that's the price point, 500 to 600, there's really no scenario in which this handheld is going to have like a Z2 Extreme or a Strix point in it, for example. It's going to be most likely a Z2 Go or a base level Z2. And that makes it real awkward, because if Microsoft is making a quote-unquote Xbox handheld with the, as we've seen, kind of poor performance of the Z2 Go, that sort of still positions the ROG Ally X as the better option. So, kind of awkward, but I wanted to know, like, what do you guys think about this? What are we looking at here?
Look, I think it makes sense for Microsoft to be testing this market and to do so in a way that's maybe kind of low stakes at first. It makes sense to me that this would be a layer on top of Windows, because why do it otherwise? I mean, if ASUS is just making another Windows handheld, it's just another ASUS Windows handheld with different branding on it. It makes more sense to me that this is taking some of the Xbox app UI or something and layering that on top of Windows, so that you can boot into Windows if you need to, but you normally would just go into a view, not unlike the Steam Deck, where you can just get to your games and start playing. But yeah, if it's going to be underperforming, that having yet another layer on top of Windows, I don't know. I'm skeptical about how well that would work.
Yeah, I feel like my initial reading of this was like, oh, ASUS is working on the ROG Ally 2 and Microsoft wants in on it, because as we know, like Phil Spencer goes everywhere with the ROG Ally. Yeah. Like he has one present all the time. He talks about how much he loves it. It would make a lot of sense to me for them to do some kind of partnership with ASUS to make sure the ROG Ally 2 was actually branded as an Xbox handheld. That would make sense. Knowing that it is going to be this cheap, and knowing that it is realistically not going to be the Ally 2, in anything but name, really does make it very awkward, and really does, I think, raise a lot of questions about who this is for. Because if it is just playing things that are already available on like PC Game Pass and Windows, I think it's like a fun kind of cheap entry point. But the biggest question for me, the biggest hurdle here is, if you're branding it as an Xbox handheld, it needs to be able to play your games from your Xbox. And at this price, to me, considering that is about the same as like the Xbox Series X,
right,
should at least be as powerful as the Xbox Series S, but portable. And to not be able to play your actual Xbox games would be like a huge, huge, huge miss outside of, Game Pass and cloud gaming and Play Anywhere stuff. I think that they need to find some way to translate Xbox games to PC before they can really step into this market. The way that I always saw this playing out was new version of Windows that feels a lot more like an Xbox. Then find a way to get Xbox games to run on PC, launch that with a handheld, and you have the makings of something really special. Knowing that this is the direction they're going in, I think is a little bit iffy, unless that translation layer is happening behind the scenes and we just won't know about it until it gets announced. But like that to me is the number one thing. I need this thing to act as an Xbox for me to kind of like take it seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the thing is, if we're calling it an Xbox, it needs to be an Xbox. Like, I know that it's obvious, but if that's the name, right? Yeah. If that's the name, like if Nintendo, it's like, you make something else that is called the Switch and it doesn't play your Switch games. Like that would just be crazy, right? So I'm intrigued though by like, is there a world in which Microsoft, like, the whole, like, this is an Xbox campaign? Like, what if they teamed up with a bunch of manufacturers and they could say, well, this is an Xbox, it's made by ASUS. This is an Xbox, it's made by Lenovo. This is
I think this is what they're trying to do. Like, I really do think that that's the path for them. Because, at the core of it, right, like, Microsoft is a software company, right? Mm-hmm. They're not a hardware company. And I think it's incredible what they managed to accomplish with the Xbox as, like, a physical machine. But it makes a lot more sense for them to go the publishing route and the tech service route and the subscription route with something like Xbox and cloud gaming. And to be able to say this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, I think is really interesting from a marketing perspective. But they haven't matched that with the actual, like, compatibility across all of those devices. The fact that the amount of games you can play via cloud gaming is limited, I do think is a huge miss for them with this campaign. It just to drag them into the mix as well. It feels a lot like Apple advertising all of their like personalized AI Siri stuff while that not being present on the phone. I feel very similarly about Xbox saying this is an Xbox, but if I want to play the games that I already bought through the Xbox Marketplace, I can't play them on my phone right now through the xCloud app. That's a huge whiff. It's a huge whiff that needs to be rectified. And they've said that they're working on it for the past 4 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, and I want to keep up that Apple analogy because what I think is interesting is I could see a world in which, so we know that also according to Tom Warren that the next Xbox is most likely going to be like a PC in 2027. It's basically going to be a PC. So we're looking at this transition for Xbox as a physical object into more like a software layer, like branding and a UI and more like a different systems of software, basically. As instead of an object, you're looking at a version of Windows that is optimized for gaming. That's going to be Xbox. And I could see a scenario in which Microsoft sort of does what Apple did with the iPad. So as we know, a few years ago, Apple rebranded iOS for the iPad into iPadOS. And that is like, there are specific optimizations for the iPad, like different designs for the windows, like to take advantage of the bigger screen. But it is, at the very core, it's iOS. And I could see a scenario in which Microsoft does something similar. They launch something called Xbox OS, which is basically Windows, but it's optimized for controllers, for sleep and resume, like for the things that normally with a laptop or a desktop PC you wouldn't care about, but it's actually Windows underneath. And so Xbox, being literally called Xbox OS, they would directly go up against Valve with SteamOS, licensed to third parties. What if they're doing the same thing with Xbox OS? That's sort of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, I think.
Yeah. I think, there's so much that needs to be worked out there, from everything I just talked about with where the Xbox games to how do you incorporate things like, if it is technically some version of Windows beneath it, like, can you still run things like Steam and the Epic Game Store and itch.io and get all these games downloaded on there and have them represented in whatever user interface they're creating. I don't know. I always go back to Play Night. Like Play Night as a front end for Windows, I think is kind of like the solve. It feels like the cleanest way of doing something like this. And already on Play Night, which is very fun, you can like download a theme that looks exactly like the Xbox Series user interface. And I have that currently on my mini PC, and guess what? It looks incredible. And every time I use it, I'm like, why isn't Windows just doing this? Like, it just feels like the answer. But yeah, I don't know. There's I don't envy the team that is currently working on this. It is a very difficult problem to solve.
Yeah.
And yet, it also seems like a very simple problem to solve. I just think that they need something like Proton first.
And I'll say this before we wrap up. If there's a company that has shown and delivered what to do in terms of emulation, that is Xbox and Microsoft. I think what they have done with preservation and emulation of basically every single Xbox game, starting from the original Xbox 20 years ago with the 360 and the One, like you can go in and play something like Panzer Dragon Orta, for example, in 4K. That's an original Xbox game that you can emulate in 4K today, and they've done a bunch of crazy things with upscaling and maintaining frame rates, and they have done that across generations. The only reason I have faith in Microsoft potentially figuring this out when it comes to but what about my Xbox games, is that they have done all that work.
Yes.
For the past decade, really.
They did it once. They can do it again.
They can do it again.
The wild card is the UI itself. It's Windows, I think. Not the emulation layer. It's the UI layer for kind of translating Windows into something more user friendly and Xbox like.
Because you would assume that actually the process of figuring out ways of like emulating or porting games from the original Xbox or the 360 would be an easier task moving directly to something that is more of like a PC architecture than something like an Xbox, which is like a modified PC architecture. You would think that like moving it to something that is more default, I would say, would be an easier process. So I think you're right, John. I think like at the end of the day, they just need to get the front end right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I need Sleep and Resume.
Sleep and Resume. Come on.
Which was not mentioned once in any of these articles.
No,
That's a great point.
No.
It's a great point.
See. So I think that about does it for the regular show. We have, of course, some leftover links that we didn't get to cover, but I will once again round them up in the... I've been doing a little link outtakes sort of newsletter / blog post for our Patreon members. So all the extra stuff that we didn't get to cover, I will collect it all for our Patreon NPC XL members, and it'll be published on Patreon as a blog post that you can just go in, read, and click through and open a bunch of tabs. Hey, that's what you do in a web browser,
a lot of new emulators to talk about in there.
Yeah, there are a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. All right,
John, take us home.
Let's wrap up.
All right, everybody. That's it for this edition of NPC Next Portable Console. We will be back in another week with another episode. You can find us all online. Brendon is at wavelengths.online. Federico and I are over at macstories.net, and all three of us are on social media. Just search for our names. It's super easy to find us. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.